Good day everyone! Welcome to our class on Management Advisory Services. And today, we're going to discuss or review the topic on Working Capital Management. Pag sinabi natin Working Capital Management, this refers to the short-term financial management. And this includes the administration and control of the more liquid resources, and we are trying to make sure that these resources are sufficient to cover the day-to-day business operations, including yung mga anticipated na contingencies. So generally, the working capital management deals with the management decisions regarding the current assets and how these current assets are being funded or being financed. I divided this topic into two videos. Okay? This part 1 will include the management of your working capital generally, as well as the cash and accounts receivable management. Another video will be uploaded regarding the inventory and accounts payable or current liabilities management. Okay, let's solve a problem. So in problem number 1, the question is, we are asked to determine the cash conversion cycle or CCC. So, in our problem, Luz Vimin Corporation reported revenues of 18 billion, COGS of 16.8 billion, accounts receivable 2.4, inventory 2.1 billion, and accounts payable of 1.25. So, total purchases for the year was 11.25 billion. So, dito pa lang makikita na natin yung magiging solution natin. We are going to compute for the turnovers and then 365 days over itong mga turnovers na to. Pero in our problem, sabi rito, use 360. Emphasize lang natin. If silent ang problem, let us make use of 365. Pero pag sinabi na examiner na 360, wag na makulit. 360 ang gamitin. Okay, so let's solve. So to solve for CCC, we will add the average selling period and your average collection period and deduct the average payment period. To get your average selling period, so that is 360 divided by the inventory turnover. So that would be your COGS na 16.8 billion over your inventory na 2.1 billion. So that will give you 45 days. To get your average collection period, so 360 divided by your accounts receivable turnover, which is your revenue na 18 billion. By the way, pag walang sinabi kung credit yung ating mga sales or revenue, pag silent ang problem, we will assume na credit lahat ng yun. Okay, otherwise, sasabihin naman sa problem kung ilang percent lang yung credit sa mga revenues natin. So, wala namang sinabi. So, the entire 18 billion ay credit revenue. Divided by your accounts receivable of 2.4 billion. And that will give us 48 days. Next would be the average payment period. So, that would be your purchases. Just like your revenue. Kapag ang purchases, silent din ang problem natin. Lahat ng purchases natin ay on account. So, here, we will put our purchases na 11.25 billion here as our numerator divided by the accounts payable 1.25 billion, and that would give us 40 days. And how to solve for the CCC? So we just add 45 plus 48 minus 40, and that would give us 53 days. That is our cash conversion cycle. Okay, so dito sa problem number 1, extracted na yung mga kailangan natin. So, let's take a look at this next problem wherein we are given the balance sheet and some other information. Okay, ano bang hinahanap in problem number 2? We are asked for the working capital and to determine again the cash conversion cycle. So, we have here the balance sheet of the Olive Industries, and sabi rito, the amounts also pertain to the average for the year. And we are going to use 360 working days. So here is your balance sheet. What is the working capital? So that would be your current asset minus your current liabilities. So if you take a look, nasa yung current assets natin here. Okay? And your current assets would total 250,000. And then, yung current liabilities natin would be your accounts payable, notes payable, and other current liabilities here. And then, the total is 125,250, the total of these three. And to answer the requirement, the working capital is just 250,000 minus 125,250, and that will give us 124,750. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we are asked to get the cash conversion cycle. Pero to get that, we need again the average selling period plus the average collection minus the average payment. Kaya lang, check natin if we have details dun sa mga numerator natin. For our sales, yes, here. For our cost of sales, sabi rito, markup on cost is 60%. So, ibig sabihin, to get your cost of sales or cost of goods sold, itong 720,000 should be divided by 1.6 or 160% to get the COGS. Pero, paano yung numerator ng accounts payable turnover, which is the purchases on account? Walang sinabi kung magkano yung purchases, but remember, sabi rito, the amounts also pertain to the average for the year. So, itong inventory natin, inventory beginning plus your purchases minus ending is your cost of goods sold. Na nakuha natin dito yung cost of goods sold. Equal lang naman yung beginning at ending inventory natin kasi ito na yung average. Ito na to. So, therefore, the cost of goods sold is assumed to be equal to your purchases as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the solution. Here. So for your average selling period, so 360 over inventory turnover. Paano nakuha yon? Yung 720,000 divided by 1.6. That is your COGS. Divided by the average inventory of 100,000. So that will give us 4.5. So 360 divided by the 4.5, 80 days for average selling period. And then for average collection, so we have your sales over average AR. So it's 720 na sales divided by 60,000 average AR. That will give us 12 na turnover. So 360 over 12, 30 days for average collection. Now, meaning it will take us 80 plus 30 or 110 days for our operating cycle. And then if we deduct now the average payment period, which is 45 days, that will give us 80 plus 30 minus 45, 65 days of your cash conversion cycle. Again, the purchases here is just 450,000, just the same with your cost of goods sold, 720 divided by 1.6 then. Okay, so that would be your final answer in problem number 2, requirement number 2, 65 days. Okay, so let's now talk about funding requirements of the cash conversion cycle, or parang sinabi natin na funding requirements of the working capital. So we have two, the permanent and the seasonal. Pag sinabi mong permanent, constant investment yan in operating assets resulting from constant sales over time. Ang difference na kay seasonal, yung investment naman ay nagva-vary kasi nagva-vary din or cyclical yung sales. One good example ay yung mga bookstore. Try to observe the bookstores during the year. Yung mga normal months nila, lahat ng inventory nila ay nasa loob lang ng bookstore. Pero try to observe yung months of May, June, or July, nag-uumapaw ang inventory nila kaya yung iba ay nasa labas na. Ibig sabihin, during those months, yun yung mga peak season nila. Kasi magpapasokan na. So therefore, during those months, they will be needing more inventory, they will be needing more working capital. So, nag-shoot up bigla yung working capital requirement nila. Yung difference nung bagong working capital requirement and the permanent funding requirement is your seasonal funding requirement. Okay? So, how do we fund those working capital or seasonal funding requirement? Okay, this is just an illustration ng permanent funding requirement natin. So if the company holds, on the average, 50,000 in cash and marketable securities, 1,250 in inventory, and 750,000 in accounts receivable. So basically, these are your current assets. And then the business is very stable over time. So the operating assets can be viewed as permanent. And in addition, 7RS accounts payable of 425,000 are stable over time. So current assets and current liabilities, the difference is your permanent investment in operating assets, and that is 1,625,000, or this is also known as your permanent funding requirements. So once again, we have two permanent and seasonal funding requirements. But how do we fund? Or anong strategies are available to fund for those requirements? We have aggressive and conservative funding strategies. If aggressive ang inadopt na strategy, the seasonal requirements will be funded by short-term debt, pero yung permanent will be funded by long-term debt. Pero kapag conservative, both seasonal and funding requirements are funded by long-term debt. Summary lang. So, kapag aggressive and conservative, basta permanent requirement, long-term parehas yung ginagamit natin. Dito lang sila nagkaiba sa seasonal requirements. Kasi pag aggressive, short-term ang ginagamit, they are confident that they can pay the obligation in just a short period of time. Kaya naman, nakaka-reduce sila ng cost. Because generally, the short-term debt has less cost compared kay long-term debt. Pero kapag conservative naman, they make use of the time. They may not be that confident na mababayaran nila yung obligation agad-agad. Kaya naman, they make use of the long-term debt. Well, dun naman sa mga months na hindi niya kailangan yung ibang fund kasi sobra yung kanyang working capital, they try to reinvest yung mga surplus that they have. Okay. Kaya, if we try to look at the cost ng aggressive at conservative funding strategy, ang cost ng aggressive ay yung cost ng short term at saka yung cost ng long term. Pero ang cost ng funding strategy, cost lang ng long term. Pero, remember, any surplus can be reinvested. So, cost ng long term minus the earnings on the surplus. So, let's take a look at some illustration. So, we have here Yusana Company na ang permanent funding ay 300,000. Again, using the long term debt, whether aggressive or conservative. And then, the seasonal funding requirements vary between 0 and 880,000. Pero ang average na funding requirements over the year ay 250,000. So, Yusana can borrow short-term funds at 6.5, pag long-term, 9%. If it is, if there are surplus balances, they can invest with 5% na earnings. So, aggressive ang una nating illustration. So, pag aggressive, we have both short-term and long-term debt. So, anong cost ng short-term? Here, short-term financing applicable dun sa seasonal funding. Tapos, yung long-term financing applicable sa permanent funding requirements. Kaya naman, 6.5% of 250 and 9% ng 300,000 na permanent funding. That would give us the cost of your aggressive strategy. So, alin kaya ang less costly? Aggressive or conservative? Let's check. Kapag conservative kasi, anong mangyayari? So, Yusana can choose a conservative under which surplus cash balances are fully invested. So, ano ba yung surplus natin? Remember, we have 800,000 na yung seasonal funding requirement. Pero on the average, 250,000 lang yung requirement natin over the year. Ibig sabihin, on the average, may surplus tayo na 550,000 and it can be fully invested. And remember, sa conservative strategy, yung seasonal at saka permanent funding would be coming from the long-term debt. Kaya ang cost niya would be yung long-term debt lang. Yun nga lang, mababawasan siya ng any possible earning after i-reinvest natin itong surplus in our cash balance. Okay, just to show the computation. So we have the cost of long-term financing, 1.1 million. Yung 800 na pinakamataas na seasonal funding plus the 300,000 na permanent, kaya naging 1.1 million. So everything is multiplied by 9%, the cost of long-term financing. Okay? Pero minus the earnings on surplus balance. We have surplus ng 550, but we could earn 5% from the investment of the surplus. So, ileless natin yung 27,500. Therefore, the cost of conservative strategy is 71,500, which is more costly as compared to aggressive strategy. Oops, for 6 minutes, we will have a practice. So again, after I show the problem, we have 6 minutes to solve for the problem. I-pause muna natin yung video. And then after you computed for the answer, you go back to this video and let's compare our answers. Okay, so here is your problem. And you have to pause your video now and start your time. Go. Alright, I guess time's up. Sana 6 minutes lang talaga. So the question would be, what is the annual cost of an aggressive and number 2, conservative strategy? So pinagko-compare lang yung dalawa. Again, pag aggressive, we will be using short-term and long-term debt. Short-term para sa seasonal, long-term para sa permanent. Kapag conservative, parehas na gagamitan ng long-term debt. Pero syempre, meron tayong surplus. Kaya may possible na earnings. So, ima-minus natin yon. So, let's check if we have the same answers. Okay. For aggressive strategy, so we have here the cost of short-term and long-term, a total of 35,100. For conservative strategy, long-term pero minus again the surplus. Yung earnings on the surplus, 6%. So, we have here a total of 66,300. So, looking at the two strategies, mas mura pa rin to have the aggressive strategy. But of course, risky because you have to pay your obligation for just a short period of time. Okay? Oops! Another activity. If mali ang naging sagot mo sa nauna, maybe this time, you can have the correct answer. Again, i-pause ang video for 6 minutes after I show the problem. Here it is. Oops, before you pause, the question is, which one or which strategy would be less costly? And alam na natin kung alin talaga actually aggressive. Pero, what is the net advantage? Or in other words, less costly by how much? So, your time starts now. Alright, time is up. Again, sana 6 minutes lang na tapos na natin. So, let us reveal our answers. But then again, ano ba ang mga data natin dito for aggressive and conservative? We have permanent funding and seasonal funding requirements. So, we also have average of 120. Magkano yung ating surplus earnings if invested? 5%. So, let's check our answers. Here are your answers. For aggressive, we have 39,200. Again, short-term and long-term po yan. Pero pag conservative, what do we expect? Dapat ang lalabas dyan ay long-term lang. Minus the earnings on surplus. So, your answer is 56,000. Okay. So, which one is less costly? It is the aggressive strategy. By how much? 39,200 as compared with 56,000. So, we have 16,800 advantage of aggressive strategy over the conservative strategy. Cash is king. So never take your eyes off the cash flow because it is the lifeblood of the business. So why do the companies need to maintain cash? So here are the 3 reasons. We have transaction, speculative, and precautionary motives. Kapag transaction motive, the company intends to meet the minimum business operations requirements. Yung mga transaction-related needs come from the normal disbursement and collection activities of the organization. Kapag speculative motive naman, so this one leads to the use of cash balance to take advantage of the bargain purchases of materials or kapag may mga unusual cash discounts. So they can take advantage of those. And then we have precautionary. Kapag ito naman, this results in holding cash for unforeseen fluctuations in cash inflow and outflow. But just in case we have so much cash in our organization, here are the possible placements for excess cash. Sobrang dami na nating pwedeng paglagyan. We have the savings or current, time deposits. If you want to lock your money for several months or certain period of time, we have stocks, bills, commercial papers, o di kaya we can settle our long-term liabilities to avoid yung mga further interests pa. We have money market placements. We can purchase fixed asset para mas mag-grow pa yung pera natin, or we can enter in a new profitable venture. Kesa naman na maiwan lang kasi or maging idle lang yung huge amount of cash natin for several periods, sayang naman yung interest or any possible revenue that we can earn out of any other investment opportunities. Okay. So how do we control our cash flow? Number one is, let us try to synchronize our cash inflow and outflow. That's why the companies are trying to prepare the cash position budget, meaning they're trying to project the inflow and outflow. They are trying to make sure that there is enough cash to pay for all the disbursements. Then number two, cash floats. We will talk about floats later, about payments and collections. We also try to extend cash payment as much as possible, but make sure that when we extend payment, we do not damage our reputation or we do not damage our relationship with our creditors or suppliers. We try to avail of cash discount as much as possible, if that would be less costly compared to letting go of the discount. And we try to maintain the optimum transaction size. So let's now talk about these floats, the disbursement and the collection float. Disbursement float refers to the money that a person or company has spent but has not yet been taken out of one's bank account. For example, if a company writes a check, so hindi naman minsan agad nakakarating sa ating supplier. It will take 1 or even more days bago makarating sa supplier. And then once the check reached the supplier, minsan hindi naman nila agad na de-deposit sa bangko. And sometimes, pag nakarating na sa bangko, iba yung bangko natin at iba yung bangko ng supplier. So, it will take another day bago mag-clear yung ating check. So, ibig sabihin, may naka-float tayo na amount of money, kaya meron difference yung ating bank and book balances. Same with the collection float. Ang difference lang niya, yung collection float naman is created when the firm is receiving a check. So, nagkakaroon ng increase in the firm's book balance, pero sa totoo lang, hindi pa siya available for our disbursement. Why? Kasi hindi pa natin nade-deposit sa bangko. And then again, pag na-deposit natin sa bangko, magkaiba na naman yung bangko. It will take another day bago mag-clear yung check. So, may naka-float na naman tayong amount of money. Okay, and yun ang gusto natin mangyari, to reduce yung float na meron tayo pagdating sa collection. Pero sa disbursement, syempre, sa point of view natin na nag-i-issue ng check, if we can increase the float, it would be better because we have the chance to make use of the money hanggat hindi pa yun nababawa sa ating balance. And then, we have the net float, which is the sum of the disbursement float and collection float. So, how do we manage the float? Or how do we control yung collection and disbursement of cash? Ang gusto kasi natin mangyari as far as collection is concerned is to reduce yung number of days na from the time the customer pays their bills and the time the checks are collected and made available to our balances or available for our use. Kapag naman disbursement ang pinag-uusapan, we would like to increase the lag. Ibig sabihin, increase the number of days na bago mabawas sa atin yung funds na in-issue natin. Pero syempre, we make sure that we do not damage our relationship with our customers. And to better manage the float, we have to identify the 3 types of float at kung kailan nangyayari yung mga floats na yan para ma-address natin paano natin mas mapapabilis yung collection or ma-reduce yung lag so that we could reduce the float. Okay, pag mail float ang pinag-uusapan, it is from the time the check is issued up to the time the check is received by the payee. So basically from the customer bago makarating sa atin. That is what we call mail float. We also have processing float. Nasa atin na yung cheque until such time na ma-deposit natin in the bank. That is processing float. Clearing float, nasa bangko na pero it will take time. So, from the time the check is deposited up to the date the check is cleared. Kasi, kung magkaiba yung bangko natin, it will take, buti nowadays, 1 day lang, makiklear na yung check natin. But, there are ways on how we can reduce the lags and thus reducing the floats or collection floats. And one way to do it is through collecting center or agent. So, in this scenario, we have here Security Bank bilang collecting center or agent ng isang company or GEM Corporation. So, ano nangyari dito? GEM Corporation has an agreement with Security Bank to collect 3 million a day in exchange for a compensating balance of 500,000. So, normally this happens na kapag may collecting agent ka, of course, may usapan naman kayo na may compensating balance. And then the Security Bank could make use of that compensating balance na pwede niya mapaikot. Okay? And the firm, with a significant increase in its customer in the area, is thinking of canceling the agreement and dividing the service provided by Security Bank Corporation with China Bank Incorporated or CBI. Okay. And with this plan, SBC will handle the collection of 2 million. So, split na niya kay SBC and CBI yung collection. 2 million kay SBC with a compensating balance of 800,000. On the other hand, CBI Bank will handle the other 1 million collection in exchange for a compensating balance of 400,000. So with this plan of arrangement with the two banks to perform the collection, the firm is expecting to reduce the collection by 1 day. So bibilis lang ng 1 day. And the firm's rate of return is 7%. The question is, what is the amount of incremental income or loss if GEM will pursue the division of service between SBC and CBI? Kumbaga, may collecting center ka na. So, ngayon, may option ka to divide the services. Baka kasi mas mabilis. Will it be beneficial for us to do that? So, as a starter, let us analyze the problem this way. So, at present, Security Bank, daily collection is 3 million, compensating balance ay 500,000. Okay? At ang kapalit niyan sa bagong or sa proposal would be Security Bank 2 million and China Bank 1 million. Pero ang compensating balance natin from 500,000, it will now be 1.2 million, 800 and 400 for the two banks. Will it really be beneficial na gawin natin yung proposal? Sabi dito, if we do that, we reduce the collection period by 1 day. Mas mabilis pala pag hinati natin. And there is the firm's rate of return of 7%. So how do we analyze the situation? We try to check gaano karaming cash ba yung madadagdag sa balance natin on the average. And that would be equal to your 1 day times the amount of cash freed. Magkano ba yung daily collection natin? That is 3 million. Okay. And kaya lang, nadagdagan tayo ng 3 million because of 1 day na na-reduce na collection period. Pero yung compensating balance natin nag-increase from 500 naging 1.2 million. So nag-increase tayo ng 700,000. And let us analyze yung magiging effect nito sa ating profit. Okay. The amount of cash collection per day is 3 million. Number of days freed on the collection is 1 day. So the amount of cash freed is 3 million. We check or we match against the increase in compensating balance na 700,000. Therefore, may increase pa rin tayo sa cash flow na 2.3 million. So pag in-split pala natin yung collection sa dalawang collecting centers or agent, with the rate of return na 7%, that will give us incremental income of 161,000. Kasi itong increase in the cash flow, this could be invested in other opportunities na ang rate of return daw ay 7%. So with that, it is beneficial to pursue the division of service sa dalawang collecting centers or agent. Pero Kapag ito ay naging negative, ibig sabihin, we should maintain kung ano yung present na scenario natin, which is through SBC. So, ang answer natin, incremental income is 161,000. Another way to reduce collection float is through the use of the lockbox system. Okay, ano bang meron sa lockbox system? Ang isang company, they will give instructions to their customers na dito nila ipapadala yung payment nila sa isang bank-operated na mailing address. And then, itong si bank employee will go to that mailing address. Then, they open the incoming mail. Tapos, lahat na makita nila na payments doon, they will deposit to the company's bank accounts. And then, they will send the remittance information doon kay company. So, in that way, mas mapapabilis yung ating collection. So, in this problem, so we have the company sells essentials. It takes them several days to receive and deposit collections from customers to its 3 banks. Kaya naman, they came up with this lockbox system. The bankers explain that with the system in place, expected float time will be reduced. And then the following shows the packages offered by the banks. Of course, yung lockbox system or lockbox service for a fee. Hindi po yan libre. So, the average daily collections for China Bank, Land Bank, and Metro Bank are as follows. And then here are the current float in terms of days, 7, 8, and 9 days. Then expected float, if lockbox is availed, marireduce ito ng 2 days. From 7 magiging 5. Ito from 8 magiging 6. From 9 magiging 6. So 3 days naman ang reduction nito sa number of days ng float natin. Pero ang kapalit niyan, cost of lockbox would be 8,000 monthly or 24,500 quarterly or 48,000 semi-annually. The question is, how much is the advantage or disadvantage using the lockbox system offered by China, Land, and Metro? Of course, if there is reduction in our float, ibig sabihin madadagdagan yung ating average daily balance. And we will try to check ano kaya yung kikitain natin with the increase in our average daily balance if we were invest that in any other opportunities given the rates of return here. Okay, so let's try to assess if we are going to pursue the lockbox system or simply as is na lang yung collection operations natin. So let's check. For China, so the amount of cash freed per day ay 500,000. Yan yung average daily collection yan. Number of days na ma-reduce yung flow, 2 days. So therefore, amount of cash freed up, and that would increase our daily balance ng 1 million. And if invested in other opportunities for 10%, the expected benefit is 100,000. The cost of the lockbox system is 96,000, which is 8,000 per month times the number of months, 96,000. Kaya naman, it is advantageous to avail of the lockbox system. By how much? 4,000 ang increase in our profit. And let's check for Land Bank and Metro Bank, and then let's compare. So here. So for Land, we have 2 days na free. And then 840 times the 12% of rate of return times 840, so 100,800. And the cost of lockbox system is 98,000. Where did we get the 98,000? That is 24,500 times 4 quarters. So ang pakinabang natin with pursuing the lockbox system is 2,800. Okay. So with Metrobank, ang ating net advantage ay 30,000. How did we arrive with that figure? 350 kasi ang average collection. So, times 3 days na i-reduce sa ating lag. And then, we will come up with the increase in our cash balance na 1,050,000. Multiplying by the possible rate of return na 12%, much better na may expected return na 126 over the 96,000 na cost of lockbox system. So, with these 3 banks, we can conclude that it is okay or we can really recommend to pursue using the lockbox system because in all the banks, meron tayong net advantage of availing the service. So kung mapapansin natin, palaging cost-benefit analysis na nangyayari. So we have the cost of the service, anong benefit that we could derive. Okay? And if the benefit would exceed the cost, that's the time that we proceed with that proposal or possible na system to adopt. Otherwise, as is na lang yung operations natin. Another problem in lockbox system, ito naman mas detalyado lang kung anong float yung specific na mare-reduce. So, the company is a retail mail order that currently uses a central collection system and requires all checks to be sent to its headquarters. So, an average of 6 days is required for mailed checks. So, 3 days to process them and 2 days. So, all in all, we have 11 days. And then, a proposed lockbox system would reduce the mailing and processing time to 2 days. And then, the check clearing time to 1 day. So, if the average daily collection is 150,000, the only question is, how much would the increase in the average cash balance if the company adopts the lockbox system? Summary lang. So, we have at present 6, 3, and 2 na mail processing and clearing float in terms of days. So, we have 11 here. And then, the proposed lockbox, dalawa na lang si mail float, dalawa kay processing, 1. So, total of 5 days. Total reduction in the days would be 6 times the 150,000 average daily collection. So, the increase in the average cash balance that could be reinvested would be 900,000. Alright, so another way to reduce the collection float is through concentration banking. So anong ginagawa ng company dito? Kasi si supplier A, Security Bank. Si customer A, Security Bank ang bangko. Customer B, BPI. Customer C, China Bank. Ibig sabihin, kapag ang bangko ko naman ay Land Bank, every time that they deposit their collections to my account, palaging merong clearing float na tigwa 1 day. Kasi ngayon sa Pilipinas, 1 day na lang ang clearing float or clearing day natin. So now, ang ginagawa ng companies, they try to open several accounts in different banks. So para si customer na may Security Bank na account, kung marami naman sila, I'll try to open a Security Bank account para doon na sila magde-deposit. Ganon din gagawin ko kay mga customers na may BPI at kay customers na may China Bank. In that way, yung clearing float ay ma-reduce or ma-eliminate. Because once they deposit to the respective na banks, at the same day, makiklear na at magiging available na yung fund for use. Wire transfer that is being utilized by many companies nowadays. So, within the same day na ma-authorize or pag sinet na yung date kung kailan mag-clear or matatransfer yung pera sa payee, so automatically that would be available for use. So that is faster. Kaya naman yung ibang mga company, they are requiring na yung mga customers nila are doing wire transfer para mas mabilis yung collection. Marami pa sigurong ways to reduce the collection float, pero these are some of the most common methods that are being used to reduce the collection float. So this time, we are going to suggest on how we can extend the cash disbursements. And the first suggestion is playing the float. In this process, we are trying to take advantage of the clearing system so that we can make use of the funds in the firm's bank account before ito totally matanggal sa bank balance natin. So, alam natin kung kailan ito matatanggal sa bank balance natin. So, hanggat hindi siya natatanggal, we try to make use of that money, but make sure na alam mo at aware ka kung kailan siya matatanggal para if that day or that date comes, you can make sure that the fund is available for that particular payment. The second one is through auto-debit transfer. What is this auto-debit transfer? We have two accounts, savings and current. Lahat ng deposits sa savings account. Lahat ng payments sa current account. And take note, the current account is maintained with 0 balance. So kung 0 balance yan at ginagamit mo yan sa payment, using the auto debit transfer, wala nang fear na baka ma-NSF or not sufficient fund tayo. Because every time na mag-i-issue ng check using the current account, kapag present sa bangko ni payee, when it is being charged against our account, it will automatically be funded by the savings account. So automatic na siya. Kaya that's why it's called auto debit transfer. And we also have the manual way of doing that. So you manually prepare another check so that it can be transferred to the current account, and that is debit transfer. Stretching of payables, we try to negotiate with our supplier, with our supplier if we can stretch or if we can extend the payment terms. But make sure you do not stretch the payables ng sarili mo lang ang nakakaalam. You have to inform your supplier and they have to agree. Because by doing that, you can keep your good relationship with your suppliers or creditors. And then, centralization of disbursements. This is very important because in that way, we can monitor all the payments and satisfy obligations to the optimum time. So, they can actually master kailan pa talaga dapat magbayad. At they can actually select the creditors na talagang sobrang higpit that they have to be paid. And may mga creditors naman na they can tolerate delays. So, that is the benefit of doing the centralization of disbursement. Another way to control cash is by maintaining the optimal transaction size. So, what happens here? So, suppose that we have excess cash. Kung hindi naman sobrang laki ng excess cash natin, so we might as well invest in short-term opportunities lang. So that kapag kailangan uli natin ng cash, it will be immediately or converted into cash ng mas mabilis lang. Okay? So, kapag kinip natin yung cash natin sa atin, there is an opportunity cost. Sayang, na-invest mo sana at kumita. Yung kita na yun yung opportunity cost natin. But if you transact or you invest, may transaction cost po kada investment natin. So, the question is, magkano kaya yung total cost of investing our cash for the entire year? Okay, so let's have this example. So suppose that the company generates 10,000 pesos per month excess cash. So all in a year, 120,000 cash. So which it intends to invest in short-term securities. The interest rate that it can expect to earn is 5% per annum. The transaction cost associated with each investment ay 50 pesos. So the question is, what is the total cost associated with the ECQ, or what is the total cost associated if we invest with the optimal transaction size? Alamin muna natin, magkano ba yung amount ng optimal transaction size na tinutukoy natin? So parang EOQ or economic order quantity lang yan. Na this time, hindi inventory ang tinatanong, kundi amount of your cash na every transaction. So, your optimal transaction size or ECQ, economic cash quantity, that is 2 times C times T over R. Wherein, yung C natin is the annual cash needed. So, or yung annual cash na excess natin. Now, letter T for transaction cost per activity, which is 50 pesos. And then for letter R, interest rate. That is the opportunity cost. That is the 5%. Okay. So, annual transaction cost natin would be, ilang pesos ba tayo magta-transact in a year times the transaction cost per activity. So, 50 times yung lalabas na number of transactions. And then, we also have the annual holding cost. Yung ating optimal transaction size over 2 times the interest rate, which is 5%. Now, ang tanong ay total cost associated with the ECQ. So, the total cost would be the sum of your annual transaction cost and annual holding cost. So, let's compute for our problem number 1 here. So, ECQ is 2 times 12 times 10,000. Remember, 10,000 excess per month times 12 months. Make sure that ito ay annualized. Okay, so sometimes quarterly, so multiply it by 4. Semi-annual, multiply it by 2. So be careful with that. So in our case, 10,000 monthly. So we multiply it by 12. times 50, that is your transaction cost, over the 5%, which is your interest rate. Okay, so with that, getting the square root of the answer will give you 15,492. Meaning, every time you transact, every time you invest, you are going to invest the amount of 15,492. Okay, so the question is, how many transactions do we make per year? So we are going to have a total of 120,000 excess cash that we are going to invest. We divided by 15,492 per investment or per transaction, and that will give us 7.75 number of transactions. Of course, walang 0.75 in real life. It should be 8 transactions. But for computation purposes only, we make use of the 7.75 here. The annual transaction cost would be 7.75 transactions times 50 per transaction. So that would give us 387.30 na annual transaction cost. How about the opportunity cost? Remember, that is your ECQ or OTS divided by 2 times the rate. So 15,492 over 2 times 5%. That is also 387.30. Kasi po, ang optimal transaction size or the economic cash quantity is the transaction size wherein the annual transaction cost and the annual opportunity costs are equal. Yung dalawa na yan. And in that case, that is the minimal cost that we can have related to our investments of excess cash to marketable securities. Okay? So the total transaction cost would be 387.3 plus 387.30, the total of 770.46 or approximately 775. That is the total transaction cost. Again, the scenario was we have the excess cash and we are going to invest into marketable securities. Magkano ang kada investment? 15,492. Okay? So, let's try another problem in optimal transaction size. So suppose that the fixed cost of selling marketable securities is 10 per transaction and the interest rate is 8%. So ito yung T, ito yung R natin. So the company estimates that it will make cash payments of 12.9 million per quarter. So meaning 12.5 million rather times 4, that's 50 million for the entire year na payment. So in this case, we have marketable securities. Tapos we would like to convert into cash kasi we are going to make payments of 12.5 million. Kumbaga, hanggat hindi pa tayo nagbabayad ng 12.5 million, we are going to invest in marketable securities so that it could earn a bit, at least 8%. Habang niintay natin yung cash payments. Ang tanong is, what is the optimal transaction size? In other words, magkano marketable securities yung i-convert natin into cash palagi? And then the average cash balance, and then the number of times the company has to convert in a year, gaano karaming beses, and then the total cost of converting the marketable securities to cash, and the total carrying cost of your cash. So again, using the formula na OTS is equal to square root of 2CT. C is for your cash payments. Pero sabi natin 12.5 million per quarter, kaya minultiply natin ng 4 times 10 na transaction cost. And then 8% na interest rate. And that will give us the answer na 111,803.4 na optimal transaction size. So, ibig sabihin, we are going to convert marketable securities amounting to 111,803 per conversion or per transaction. What is average cash balance? That is simply dividing the OTS by 2. So, the answer is 55,901.70. Ilang beses ka magko-convert in a year? Number of conversion. Magkano ba yung i-convert natin? Magkano ba kailangan natin i-convert? Remember, 12.5 times 4 is 50 million. Yan yung i-convert natin. Kada conversion natin, magkano yung amount? 111,803.4. Therefore, ilang beses tayo magko-convert? 447.21 times. in a year. Mas marami pa yan kaysa sa number of days in a year. Okay? Kaya ibig sabihin, mayat-maya tayo magko-convert ng ating marketable securities into cash. Pero for computational or exam purposes, hayaan muna natin yung 447.21 times. Ang tanong ngayon, what is the total cost of this transaction? The total cost of converting from marketable to cash is 447.21 times. We will convert 447.21 times. Magkano kada conversion o transaction? 10 pesos. Therefore, the total cost of converting is 4472.10. The question is, magkano ang carrying cost natin? That is the interest rate times the average cash balance. So, average cash balance na 110,803.4 over 2 times the 8%. So, 4472.10. Again, the total cost of converting and then the total carrying cost equal sila kapag OTS ang pinag-uusapan natin. Alright, so it's time for receivable management. So, what do we want to happen with our receivables? That is to collect the receivables as quickly as possible without losing sales from high-pressure collection techniques. Remember, if we are too strict, baka mabawasan yung sales natin. Or if we are too lax, baka naman umaapaw na yung bad debts expense natin. Now, to accomplish these goals, we have to take note of these 3 topics. The credit selection and standards. During the selection period pa lang, sino ba dapat i-grant natin ng credit? Okay? And ano ba yung terms na i-offer natin with our customers? And how do we make sure that they will pay as their obligations become due? So, let's talk about credit standards and remember the 5 C's of credit. Number 1 is the character. So, we are trying to check if our applicant or if the customer is able to meet his or her past obligations. And capacity, if they can really pay the requested credit. And capital, we are going to check if their debt is relatively high with regards to their equity. Kasi pag nakita natin yung mga financial statements ng ating mga client na sobrang laki na ng debt, so medyo nagiging doubtful tayo if we are going to grant a credit. But then again, case-to-case basis pa rin yan. And number 4, collateral. That could actually give confidence dun sa nagpapautang, because in the case of breach, in the case of non-payment, meron tayong makukuha from the customer. Okay? And conditions. These are current and general industry specific economic conditions and any unique conditions surrounding a specific transaction. Just like today, ECQ, and because of COVID-19, so maraming companies that are extending credit sa mga customers. So, case-to-case basis pa rin talaga. So, depende sa 5 C's of credit, you are going to evaluate your applicant if they are capable of paying the obligation or not. So, pero at the end of the day, kahit na hindi pasado sa 5 C's of credit natin, may mga companies pa rin who are really or that are really extending credit to their customers. So it depends on their decision. We have here the credit terms. Ang credit terms na ino-offer natin, sometimes we have cash discount. So just like the terms of 210 net 30. So again, ano ibig sabihin ng 210 and 30? Meaning we have 2% discount if they pay within 10 days. And then they can actually pay within 30 days. And we have the cash discount periods. As mentioned earlier, we have 10 days. Pero remember, if a firm were to increase its cash discount period by 10 days, for example, kanina, 210 and 30, tapos gusto mong gawing 220 net 30. So, what do you think will happen to our sales? Okay, number 1, sales would increase. So, positively affecting profit. Why? Mas maraming may encourage to buy from our company because of the higher possibility that they could take advantage of the credit. what else would happen? Bad debts expense would decrease. Why? Because you are offering discounts if they pay promptly. So most likely, maraming magta-take advantage. So in that case, mababawasan ang bad debts natin. And also, the profit per unit would decrease as a result of more people taking the discount, negatively affecting profit. Siyempre, any discount taken, that is another cost on our part. So it will affect our profit negatively. Another thing under credit terms ay credit period. So let us suppose that we are going to change the payment or credit period from 30 days to 45 days. So what will happen to our performance? Number one, sales will increase and it would positively affect our profit. Kasi naman, ang customers, they will tend to buy more if mas magaan for them yung mga terms na binibigay natin sa kanila. Pero, what will happen to the investment? There is increase in the investment in the accounts receivable, and that will negatively affect the profit. And also, bad debts expense would also increase kasi mas malaki na yung sales natin on account at mas mahaba pa yung days ng exposure to non-collection. So, ibig sabihin, there is higher chance na magkaroon ng mas mataas na bad debts. And that would negatively affect our profit as well. And credit monitoring is very important. So we have the credit selection and standards, we have the credit terms, and how do we make sure that they are really paying based dun sa credit terms na sinet natin. Okay, because if they are not paying in a timely manner, credit monitoring will alert the firm to the problem. So dapat meron tayong system in place on how we can monitor the credit standing of all our customers on account. And also, slow payments are costly to a firm because they lengthen the average collection period, and thus the increase in firms' investments in accounts receivable. Mas natutulog lalo yung pera natin sa accounts receivable. Dapat nakolekta na natin yan at nagagamit na into any possible use or investment opportunities. Pero since hindi natin nakolekta, lumagpas sa ating due date, so tulog yung pera natin with our customers. And these are the two common techniques in credit monitoring. Number one is monitoring of our average collection period. And number two, we try to prepare the aging of accounts receivable. And as we all know, pag average collection period, ito ay from the time ng sale until the customer mails the payment. Actually, hindi lang yun. Number two, this is very important. The time from when the payment is mailed until the firm has the collected funds in its bank account. So in other words, we have to remember yung float natin, yung lag sa ating collection, that is also included in the average collection period. Hindi porket nasa atin na yung cheque, that is available for us for use. Make sure that you deposit and it has been cleared in our bank account. And the second one is the aging schedule. I'll just show you an example. So we have here age of account. We have the 0 to 30 days age ng account up to those accounts that are over 120 days. And we have these balances, 2 million total balance. Tapos ito yung breakdown natin. Sobrang marami tayong mga 0 to 30 days, pero may mga accounts tayo na malayo na or 61 to 90 days old. So this is just the distribution of our balances as to the age of the account. So in that way, makikita natin magkano na ba yung sobrang tagal na natin hindi nakukolekta. So with that, we can exert effort on how to collect those receivables. So here are some suggested na collection techniques. So at first, after a certain number of days, the firm can actually send polite letter reminding the customer na meron silang overdue account. Okay? Pero kapag medyo na-ignore nila yung letter, we can actually send another letter na siguro medyo mas demanding na ng konti compared to the first letter that we sent. But just in case na hindi successful ang letters natin, we can make a telephone call so that we can talk to them para ma-remind sila of their immediate payment. So we can request them to do so. And kung sakali lang naman, if the customer has a reasonable excuse, so we can make arrangement so that we can extend the payment period. Siguro ang maganda rito, yung lawyer ng company ang ipakausap natin so that magkaroon ng legal basis yung magiging extension natin. Hindi naman sa nananakot, pero para mas may impact lang na they have to abide with the new arrangement. Okay, but just in case hindi pa rin effective ang telephone call, we can have personal visits. Pero this is more common sa mga consumer credit level. Pero pwede rin naman sa mga industrial suppliers. Kumbaga, pag nagpadala ka ng collection personnel or collection person to confront the customer, it could also be effective. And siguro, the payment can be made on the spot. Okay? Pero kung wala talaga, after doing numbers 1, 2, and 3, we can actually turn into a collection agency or an attorney for the collection. Kumbaga, ito nga lang number 4, there could be a service fee na typically mataas ang service fee dito. And itong mga firm na to, itong mga attorneys na to, they can actually receive yung certain percentage ng mga nakokolekta nila in behalf of the company. Kaya medyo costly yung part na to. Pero ginagawa to pag talagang sa tingin nila hindi na talagang makasingil. Lalo na yung number 5. Legal action is the most stringent step actually. An alternative to the use of collection agency. So not only is direct legal action expensive, pero it may force the debtor into bankruptcy without guaranteeing the ultimate receipt of the overdue account. At yung mga techniques na to, these are listed in the order in which they are typically followed in the collection process. Typically. Okay? Let's go back to the objective of receivable management, which is to collect accounts receivable as quickly as possible without losing sales from high-pressure collection techniques. And we are done with the discussion of these 3 that would help us achieve our objective. Pero this time, our focus is on the credit terms. And sa credit terms na yan, we will emphasize what if there are changes and what would be the effect in our profit. Ibig sabihin, are we going to relax or are we going to be stricter when it comes to our policy? Will it be beneficial for the company to be stricter or maging mas lenient sa kanyang mga credit customers? So we are going to check the effects of the changes in credit policy. But before we proceed, some terms muna. The first one is average accounts receivable. So that is your accounts receivable times your average collection period divided by 365 days. For example, if the average collection period is 30, so times 30 over 365, gusto mo nang gawing 45 days. So the AR would be times 45 over 365 days. Sometimes, hindi average collection period ang given. Ang given ay accounts receivable turnover or ARTO. So, simply divide AR by your ARTO. Okay. So, if the question this time is average investment in AR or accounts receivable, ang investment kasi natin is actually the variable cost. Kaya naman, total cost or total variable cost of annual sales times average collection period divided by 365. Kung makikita mo, ang average AR times AR lang to, pero pag investment na, variable cost yung pinag-uusapan natin. Pero same lang na times average collection period divided by 365 days. Ganon din sa another formula. Kung walang collection period, ARTO ang binigay sa atin or accounts receivable turnover. So the total variable cost divided by the ARTO. So remember those 2 because that would be used in our decisions whether to be stricter or to relax our credit policy. But how do we assess the effects of the changes in credit policy? So these are the 4 items that we have to check on. Number 1 is the profit contribution, or this is actually the contribution margins. That's why it is sales minus your variable cost. O depende sa given, sales times the contribution margin ratio or unit sales times the contribution margin per unit. Okay, so we just compare magkano ang contribution margin under proposal, magkano contribution margin under the current credit policy. Compare lang to get the marginal contribution. Okay, and for the cost of investment, so we have computed a while ago the investment. Pero may cost po yan. Ibig sabihin, kung yan ay hindi natulog dyan sa accounts receivable natin, dapat na-invest natin sa iba. So meron tayong opportunity cost, and that is equal to the possible na rate of return kung yan ay na-invest sa iba. Kaya average investment, which is your total variable cost, times the rate of return. Then again, compare natin yung cost ng investment using the proposal, and then compare the cost of investment under the current na credit policy. Then the difference is the marginal cost of your investment. Pagdating sa bad debts, because of the changes in the credit policy, dumami ba bad debts or kumonte? So we have to compare magkano bad debts under proposal, magkano bad debts under current. Normally, it is expressed in terms of percentage of your sales. We compare again, and that in that way we will come up with the marginal na bad debts. As to discount, kasi minsan mag-offer ka ng discount o kaya minsan tatanggalin mo yung discount or dadagdagan mo yung discount. So what will happen? So we are going to check our sales times the discount rate, and we will also check yung percentage ng customers who will take the cash discount, especially with our proposal na magkakaroon tayo ng discount. And ko-compare uli natin, magkano yung discount under proposal, magkano yung discount under the current na credit policy. Is it worth it na we go with the proposal or stay with the current? Check natin dito. After getting the marginal, remember ito ay income, profit contribution. Itong tatlo ay cost ang pinag-uusapan. So we have to double check the convention. Okay? So dapat ang total marginal column natin would show us the net advantage or disadvantage. Meaning, if more profit will come if we change the policy using the proposal, or magiging disadvantage lang is if we pursue with the proposal. Kasi kung disadvantage ang lalabas dito or negative, we will stick with the current credit policy. Kaya naman, hindi pwede na tingnan mo lang na may dagdag na kita. We have to check the other items here for us to come up with our decision whether to change the credit policy or as is tayo sa credit policy natin. Let's try solving some examples here. Problem 1, regarding the credit policy changes. I-relax muna natin. Okay. So, ang tanong dito, how much is the increase? Kasi, pag nag-relax tayo ng credit policy, most likely, tataas yung ating sales. More customers will take advantage of that. And, meron din tayong cost of marginal investment in AR, and we are asked for the cost of marginal bad debt. Let's check the data. So, the director suggests that certain credit terms be modified. Yung sales increase by at least 20%, and accounts receivable turnover will be reduced to 8 times. Ibig sabihin, mas babagal yung ating collection because we are trying to relax the term and the present turnover natin kasi is 10. When it comes to bad debts, 1% of sales will increase to 1.5. And then the sales before the proposed changes is at 900,000. Variable cost 55%, and then the desired rate of return is 20%. Very important yung variable cost. This will be used for our investment in accounts receivable. Desired rate of return, saan natin magagamit to? For the computation of the cost of investment. Okay. And then fixed expenses amounted to 150,000. Okay, just to begin, let us just summarize the data. Okay? So, ito muna. Gawan muna natin ng summary. Pero kapag matagal ka nang nagko-compute kahit hindi mo na gawin to, this is just a guide. Okay? At the start. So, let's compare the sales. Current sales, 900,000. Sabi natin, mag-i-increase ng 20%, kaya times 1.2, kaya naging 1,080,000. And then, the variable cost, sabi natin, 55% of your sales, kaya 55% of your sales. Ayan, yung variable cost natin. The AR turnover is given. So, 10. So, average investment natin, turnover ang binigay. So, that would be 594 divided by your 8. Ito po. Divide natin ang accounts receivable turnover. Ayan. Pagdating sa bad debts, dating 1% magiging 1.5% na. Pero sa discount, walang binigay. Okay. So, basically, pinaplot ko lang yung given dito at the start. Pero, again, pag matagal na tayo nagsasolve dito, kahit diretso ka na sa next table. Here. Ito yung apat na items na sinabi natin kanina when we try to assess the effects of the changes in the credit policy. Check natin yung profit contribution. So, ang variable cost ay 55%, kaya naman 45% yung ating contribution. So, yung sales natin sa proposal na 1,080,000 times 45%, that is 486,000. But currently, ang contribution natin is 405,000. Kasi 900,000 times 45%. Looking at the figures, ang profit contribution natin, marginal ay 81,000. Ano nangyari? Increase tayo. Okay? So, mas okay tayo pagdating sa profit contribution. Let's check on the cost of investment. Okay? Ang investment natin, just to go back sa previous slide, ito yung average investment natin. So, to get the cost of the investment, imumultiply lang natin itong dalawa na to with our rate of return. So, ang rate of return ay 20%. Kaya naman, multiplying the investment average by 20%, that will give us cost na 14,850 sa proposal. Pero sa current natin, 9,900 lang ang cost of investment. Looking at the figures, nirelax natin yung term, nag-increase yung cost ng investment natin along with the increase of our profit contribution. Magkano yung marginal increase? Or marginal rather, cost of investment, that is 4,950. That will negatively affect our profit kasi tumaas ang cost. Okay? Ang convention dito, kapag profit ang pinag-uusapan, tumaas, positive to. Pero cost ang pinag-uusapan, tumaas, it will be negative. Okay? Bad debts expense, 1.5% ngayon, dati 1%. So, multiply lang natin sa respective na sales nila. So, 1,080,000 times 1.5, 16,200 ang bad debts expense sa proposal. Pero sa current natin, 9,000 lang. So, meron tayong increase in the bad debts na 7,200. Naka-negative because increase in bad debts. That will negatively affect our profit. But looking at the entire effect, 81 positive and then dalawang negative, that would lead us to net advantage. So what do we suggest now? We suggest that we pursue or we proceed with the proposal because that would be more advantageous for us compared sa current na credit policy natin. So again, let us change our credit policy. And just to give the summary of answers, so ito po yon. So, naka-indicate lang sa number 1, 2, and 3, ano yung impact niya sa profit. Positive ba or negative? So, that's problem number 1. Let's move to the next problem. Kung kanina relax, this time, we are going to be stricter. Okay. So, pag stricter, we are expecting there is decrease in the profit contribution from the sales. And there are savings on the investment in AR. Why? Because mas bababa yung sales, therefore, mas bababa yung ating investment. And there is also savings in the bad debt. Less sales on account, less bad debts expense. Let us check what happened to our policy. Okay. So, annual credit sales, 4 million. Average collection period ang ibinigay, 40 days. And bad debts are 5% of sales. So, the credit and collection manager is considering a stricter policy. Ano yung policy niya? Whereby bad debts would be reduced to 2%. Dating 5, magiging 2. And then the average collection period would fall to 30 days. Mas mahigpit na from 40 down to 30. However, sales would also fall by an estimated 500,000 annually. This is important. The 60% variable cost for the investment in AR, and then the cost of carrying receivables is also your rate of return to be used in the computation of your cost in AR or cost in investment in AR. So again, tulad ng sabi ko, this is the summary. Pero you don't need this if you are really familiar with the table of the changes or assessment ng effects and changes in the credit policy. But to summarize, yung nangyari, so dating 4.4 million, magiging 3.5 million na lang ang sales. Ang variable cost natin ay 60%. So multiply lang natin to ng 60%. And then average collection period ang binigay, hindi turnover. So this time, to get the average investment, i-multiply natin ng 30 divided by 360. Yes, 360 kasi it was indicated in the problem that we are going to use 360 working days. But then again, if the problem is silent, we will make use of 365 days. Okay, so this is 175,000 and this is 266,667. Pagdating sa bad debts, dating 5% naging 2% na lang. Discount, wala namang sinabi. Again, this is just a working table, pero you can skip this one and just proceed with the analysis. Ito lang naman yung kailangan nating lagyan ng laman. Pero in our case, wala ulit tayong discount na pinag-uusapan. As to profit contribution, so dating 1.6 naging 1.4 kasi stricter tayo. From 4 million naging 3.5 million. So meron tayong marginal na profit contribution na negative 200. Kasi bumaba ang sales natin. Cost of investment is expected to give us positive effect. Pero let's check. Ang investment natin ay 175,000 times the rate of return. So we have here 21% na 21,000 rather na cost of investment. And then the current is 32. So yung cost natin from 32 naging 21, bumaba. So that has a positive impact in our profit. Looking at the bad debts, dating 5% naging 2% na lang. So 5% yung ating bad debts. Okay, so it's 5% now. 4 million times 5% is 200,000. Tapos compare natin with the new bad debts expense. That is 2% of your 3.5 million, 70,000. So from 200, bababa ng 70,000 yung bad debts expense. That has a positive impact in our profit. So looking at all the effects here, makikita natin na meron tayong net disadvantage if we continue with the proposal. So the recommendation would be to continue with the current credit policy because that would be better compared to the proposal. And just to give the summary of the answers, so here are your answers from 1, 2, and 3. Alright? So this time, let's consider another problem na i-relax uli natin yung credit policy. So here is our given sa mga problems natin. And this time, may kasama na tayong discount. Okay, so let us assume that the firm is considering relaxing its current credit policy. So, annual sales niyan, all credit. Again, kung wala uling sinabi, lahat naman ay credit sales. And then 16 million ang current na sales natin. And an average collection period of 30 days. O, dito pa lang meron na tayong mako-compute na average AR. The firm is considering a change in credit terms. Net 30, gagawin natin 130, net 60. So, una, nag-offer ng discount if they pay within 30 days, 1%. And then, the period na pwede silang magbayad at the maximum, 60 days na. In-extend yung credit. Okay? The change is expected to generate additional sales of 2 million. The firm has variable cost of 75% para saan to? Sa cost of your para sa investment in your AR. And then, other information are as follow. Okay? So, new sales and dating sales natin, 18 and 16 million respectively. Contribution margin is 25%. Actually, binigay naman dito yung variable cost. Percent bad debt losses on new sales is 6%. New sales pertain to the additional sales lang na 2 million. Baka ma-confuse tayo sa new sales here. Pero ang intention ng examiner is itong additional sales na 2 million ang merong bad debts. Walang na-mention na bad debts for the previous policy. So, we will assume na walang bad debts. And the new average collection period is 45 days. Dati, 30 days. Okay. So, additional inventory investment na 50,000. And then the pre-tax required rate of return, 15% for us to compute the cost of investment. And then the new percent ng cash discount is 1%, sinabi naman dito. And then the percent of customers taking the discount, 50%. Okay. So again, summarize natin yung given, pero these are the questions muna. Change in bad debt losses, change in profit contribution, or in other words, lahat ng ginagamit natin to assess if we are going to have a net advantage or disadvantage with changing or relaxing our credit policy. So in other words, in the last item here, the net effect, that would help us decide whether to relax or just continue with the current na credit policy. Okay, so here is the summary of the current and the changes na gustong gawin. So from 16 million magiging 18 million. So 2 million new or additional sales. Ang variable cost ay 75% of your sales. Average collection period from 30, it will now become 45. So ang average investment natin would be the variable cost times your number of days divided by 360. So ito yung mga investments natin. Bad debts percentage, naka-note dito on new sales only or additional sales, 6%. Before, walang bad debts. Discount rate, 1% from dating wala. And 50% of the customers will take the discount. Those are the assumptions in our proposal. Again, you can always jump to this table. So, we will compute for the profit contribution. Check natin. 25% ng sales, 25% ng dating sales. So from 4.5 million, so from 4 million magiging 4.5 million, meaning we have 500,000 increase in our profit contribution. So positively affecting our profit, mas malakas or mas mataas ang ating proposal. Cost of investment, tumaas din. Therefore, negative ang impact niyan sa ating proposal. How did we arrive at the cost of investment again? That is your average investment in AR, the variable cost, times your 15%. And then this one is also 1 million times 15%. Looking at the average investment. Okay. So, balik tayo. And then, for the bad debts expense, 6% only on the 2 million on the additional sales. So, that would be 120,000 compared to none before. Therefore, increase talaga tayo ng bad debts ng 120 and it will negatively affect our profit. And for the discount, wala naman dati. So, this time, meron na. It will really negatively affect our profit. From 18 million times 50% because half will avail the discount. And then, 1% of that would be the discount. So, that would give us 90,000 na cost ng ating discount. Compared to nothing before, 90,000 negative ang effect sa ating profit. Looking at the net effect of our profit, ito po ang net advantage or disadvantage. So, sa tingin natin, anong recommendation natin? We will recommend changing the policy. Why? Because there is net advantage. Mas okay ang proposal kesa sa current scenario. Ito ay analysis natin dun sa accounts receivable part. Pero to answer the questions, may konting note lang because pagdating sa cost of additional investment dito, kasi meron tayong additional inventory na kasama. Balikan lang natin. Meron tayong additional inventory investment na 50,000. Again, yung inventory natin, meron din yung cost of investment. Just because you change the policy, nagkaroon ng additional inventory tuloy. So, therefore, may additional na tulog tayong pera at meron yung opportunity cost din. Kaya, to go back to our answer, so what really happened to our number one? Ano yung number one natin? Change in bad debts losses. So, let's go now to our final answer here. Nasa table natin, correct pa rin, 120,000. Number 2, correct pa rin, Pero yung number 3, ang question lang is the change in the investment. Change in the investment from 1 million naging 1,687,500. There is increase in the investment. Sa number 4, yung marginal cost of investment. Kasama na yung AR at saka yung inventory. Sa AR, based on our table, it's 103,125. Negatively affect our profit. Pero meron pang additional na 7,500. Saan nanggaling yan? Yung 50,000 natin na inventory times the 15%. So, 7,500. So, total effect ng inventory natin, ng ating credit policy change would be as to cost of investment, 110,625. Hindi lang itong nasa table natin. Going back. Yung sa ating discount, 90,000, ang effect niyan sa profit, negative nga lang. And lastly, ano yung net effect natin? 179,375. Sa table natin dito, 186,875. But then again, iyan ay para sa AR alone. At dahil nga meron tayong 7,500 na negative impact sa profit because of the additional investment, cost of investment in our inventory, kailangan i-minus din natin yon. Therefore, hindi 186,875 but instead, the net effect is 179,375. Okay, so those are the answers after we try to relax the credit policy. And we're down to the last problem. What if this time we are stricter in our credit policy? So we have here, we are asked for the marginal investment in AR, cost of marginal investment, the savings because of the marginal bad debts, and then the cost of marginal cash discount, and then the net results of increasing the cash discount. In other words, kabaligtaran lang nung scenario natin kanina if we relax. So summary ng nangyari. Okay, ang sales natin is 17.5 million currently because we have 700 units times 25,000 na selling price per unit. Sabi, mag-i-increase ng 15 units ang sales natin with the proposal. So with that, the new sales would be 17,875. Okay. The variable cost is 75%. Okay. And then, these are the variable costs for the current and the proposal. Average collection period from 90 down to 72. Faster ang collection natin because stricter ang ating policy. Therefore, the average investment from 3,281 magiging 26,81250. Check ulit natin how did we arrive on that figures. 13,406,250 times 72 over 360. Ito rin, 13,125 times 90 over 360. It should be 90. Ayan, so 90 divided by 360, 90 na yan. Okay? And then the bad debts percentage, dating 0.025%, magiging wala na. And then discount rate, nagkaroon ng 2%, and that will help the company na magkaroon ng 72% or 72 days na average collection period. And then the percent of customers taking the discount is 75%. So, again, we can always jump to this table or to this analysis. Profit contribution, 6,250 kasi yung ating contribution margin per unit. Multiply lang natin with the number of units. Okay, so let's compare. Proposal to, this is our current. We have increased na 93,750 as to profit contribution. Pero as to investment, what happened? We have here na investment na 3,281,250 pero the cost is 20%. So if we multiply that, that would give us 656,250. Pero with our proposal, bumaba ang cost of investment natin and that is 536,250. And with that, mas nagkaroon tayo ng positive impact sa ating profit. So that would be 120,000. Bad debts expense, wala na ngayon. Dati meron tayong 4,375. Again, bumaba. So we have positive impact sa ating bad debts, sa ating profit, yung bad debts expense. And for the discount, yun lang ang dapat natin i-check. Nagbigay tayo ng discount, 2%, 75% will take the discount, So that will give or arise to 268,125 na total discount. Pero dati wala. So with that, negative ang impact niyan sa ating profit, 268,125. So again, itong apat lang yung dapat nating i-check. Ano ang net effect? 50,000. So, do we advise na maging stricter tayo sa ating policy? The answer is no, because it has net disadvantage of 50,000. Okay? And here is the summary of the answers in problem number 4 with the stricter credit policy. For number 1, there is decrease in your investment in accounts receivable from 3 to 81,250 less the 2681,250. And for numbers 2 to 5, lahat ng to ay makikita natin sa ating table ng effects of the changes in our policy. Itong lahat ng yan. Alright, so with that, thank you so much. And I hope we have learned something about working capital management, specifically sa working capital in general, cash management, receivable management. Then please watch part 2 of working capital management video, wherein you could learn something about inventory management and the current liabilities management. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to send an email to ryancanonroque@yahoo.com, or if you have suggestions and clarification, please feel free to communicate with me using that email address. Okay, so thank you again so much, and please take care and God bless us all.